Welcome back to Inside the Lines. Happy Thursday. A couple things to go over today. We'll start with some Thursday night football, get you some value picks there. 2 NBA games to go over tonight, some value on those. And Jake has his team totals for Team Total Thursday. Looking good on those as well. So let's bring in Steven. We'll start with the Tron graphic, which, may I mind you, is 5-1 so far. We're looking good.
Yes. Yeah. So Buffalo, we want to act now because the line was at 8.5 for quite a bit. It's still available at 8.5 on DraftKings or BetMGM now, right? The news was announced that Godwin and Baker are going to play, but they're obviously not 100%, so that can move. The reason why we like Buffalo only has it, the model has it at -10. So this is one of those cases where it's not so much a strong model play, but it's the model play combined with what I think is going to happen, which is Tampa Bay can't run. They've scored under 14 in 3 of their last 4 games. Their strength, at least I thought it was a defense, especially their run defense. But this last game against Atlanta, they allowed 156 to Atlanta without Bijan playing barely more than 1 snap and 10 yards per pass attempt. So Buffalo has been starting out very slow offensively, but they're still a team that is plus 14 at home per game, and they're allowing just 16 per game. So even if Buffalo's offense isn't back to normal, I think they could really shut down Tampa Bay today.
Right. And we talk about some player props here. You like James Cook, another running back over receiving yards, something we found success in a lot the past few weeks. You think it's time to not just be the one-man dig show?
Yeah, it's I think Cook, Dawson Knox is out. So that's the number 4 receiving target is out. So, and Cook's been running well too. So he should be, and Damian Harris, the 3rd running back is out. So Cook's the only running back with kind of juice. And he can do both, run and receive. And I'm thinking that the offense will try to be a little bit more balanced and establish the run and not just say, here's 10 targets, Stefan, stop complaining. But the thing I like about Cook is, again, just line-wise, the model and the odds makers have his receiving prop line at 2.5. But he averages 10.5 yards per reception, which is a very strong number for a running back. So, and this year, outside of a 0 target, that really awful game against the Giants offensively, and he had 0 targets, he's had 3 catches for 46 yards, 3 catches for 25, 1 catch for 48 in the past month outside of that. So I kind of like his the fact that he's going to be on the field for plenty of snaps and that he gets 2 catches. I'd like to go over that 15.5. Big spread there with 18.5 as a best fade price. The last one is Baker Mayfield, over half pass interception. You probably want to act now. When we put this together, he was at -130, -135. Now he's at -140, so it's going up. The Bills defense with their injuries, they haven't been forcing turnovers. They only have 1 the last 2 weeks. And you saw last week with usually the heavy, interception prone Mac Jones didn't throw any. I think this is going to be a case of regression to the mean. And in this case, it's Baker throwing an interception, or the Bills defense getting another interception. If the Bills have a pretty substantial lead, more than 1 score in the second half, there's going to be a lot of catch up, a lot of pass attempts, sort of like what happened to Brock Purdy last week against Minnesota when they were forced to pass. In this case, Tampa Bay can't run at all. And so there's just going to be a lot of 3rd and longs, and Baker's going to try to force it downfield. He's got his obvious 2 targets that he's going to favor, and it's not going to be hard to pick off one.
Yeah, Derek mentioning the chat as well. Baker Mayfield, 4 straight games with interceptions, tied 3rd longest streak in his career. Things are not looking good for him there. Jake also in the chat had a prop for this game you can find on Prize Picks. Bills linebacker Terrell Bernard over 8.5 tackles and assists. You can get that. Put that in a little Prize Picks parlay. So with that, I saw some fantasy questions, which I thought would be great to get to. Big Cheesy asking about starting Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, or Ayuk for flex. If we want to head to the model there quick.
Okay, let me. I gotta type some buttons in there. All right, this is week 8, and we're looking at flex. I'm assuming it's PPR flex, which is what people play. Who are the players again?
Ayuk, Kirk, and Mike Evans.
All right. Ayuk, we only have it 49th because with Brock Purdy out, we don't know what's going to happen with that line went from San Francisco -5.5 down to -3.5, and it's all based on the offense with the a guy who could be as good as Steve Young, but probably isn't, and Sam Darnold. Sorry. Senior moment, we have Ayuk and who else? Mike Evans. Mike Evans, we have at above him at 42. So again, that's a heavy usage game with neither's really
right. And then Christian Kirk looks like we have right in the middle of those two as well.
Yeah. So sorry, we have no answer for you.
Yes. Looks like Mike Evans is your best bet.
Yeah, by a nose, by the
yes.
slice amount.
Yes. All right. So
that was a lot of work for
yeah. Let's see if we can give Big Cheesy a better answer for under 43.5 tonight. Do we have any value?
Yes, that was almost my play over the spread play, because I saw that line go up from 42.5 to 43.5. We have the same number as the opening line, essentially at 42.2. I do think that Buffalo's offense isn't quite right. And this is not the 30 point. And I do think Tampa Bay's defense is pretty good. But Buffalo still has struggled so much offensively recently. And I think Tampa Bay's offense is really in bad shape. Rashad White, they've got nothing going on the ground game. So I think that this could be a low scoring. Plus it's Thursday night, which tends to be a bit of a poop show.
Yes. Good vocabulary there. I saw a question about the NBA. We'll get to that. We'll get to the two games tonight. I'll bring Jake in here. What was it that you guys found yesterday? We talked about some narratives, some player prop situations to look out for. What did we learn last night from all those games?
I mean, I'll start it off, Jake. The big thing for me in terms of long-term, we really got to have faith on Dallas, the Mavericks, just overall this season. I still think that's a good bet. But the reason why the model hated Dallas was their lack of rebounding. But Derek Lively, the rookie from Duke, he had a big game, and so if he comes in and they go from this team that is consistently out rebounded by 6 or more to one that in that last case out rebounded their opponent, that makes a huge difference. I mean, each rebound above what they would have gotten without him is worth like half a point or 0.4 points if you look at the metrics.
Yeah, Jake, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think Wemby getting in foul trouble, only finishing with 5 rebounds, that definitely helps Dallas in the case of the rebound margin. And he didn't look like, for being 7'4", he wasn't gobbling up rebounds like you would expect. So that helped Dallas. But I do think that Lively really played like a top 5 rookie yesterday. And Olivia Maxence Prosper, he didn't even play yesterday, and he was supposed to be one of the most NBA ready players, and he's a good rebounder. So that probably puts Dallas a little ahead of what we thought. I still don't love this Dallas team. I still like them to miss the playoffs.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. So I know Steven tweeted about this for Washington. You want to just fade Washington's defense all season, but you want to be careful about if they're playing a top team, because they might only play a half and then sit out, and then these young guys might go in. So if you want to bet against Washington, bet on teams that are like going for a playing game. So luckily we hit a prop, but that was close to not hitting because he barely played the fourth quarter.
Yeah. But I love Jordan Poole's primary defensive assignment as long as it's not a veteran player on a title contender. So anybody who's not on a true title contender, 4 seed or below, younger player, they'll eat him alive. One more thing, two more things I think were important for me is Porzingis had the impact, at least in one game, that we expected him to have when the trade went down to Boston. We had Boston at the time go from 16 to 23% chance of winning a championship. That settled back down with all the other moves, but that was interesting. The other one was Cade Cunningham. He really shot well in the preseason from 3, and last night he went 4 for 9, which is an interesting. I guess one more than that. Zion looked great. He's always great statistically. He always plays well, but he still looked heavy to me. So I don't think he's going to last body-wise.
All right. Good to know there. We'll go into the 2 games tonight quickly. We have some model value on the Sixers at the Bucks, the Sixers to cover. We only have this as a 1-point game, and we like the over here as well.
Yeah, I mean, the line probably would have been set more at around -4, -3.5 if Harden were playing. There's the assumption that Harden would be out because he had, all the bad blood between him and Morey anyway. So the line was already adjusted. I think that, and I see anything from -5.5 to -6.5 right now. When we look at key players, we like to look at not just how their plus minus is, because that's not always the most meaningful stat because you don't know who they're facing. I like to look at how the team does overall. And James Harden is one of those players that is just doesn't help your team win. We have some data here where, like in the last year, playoffs included, in the games that Harden played, Philly was plus 3.1 per game. And when he didn't play, they were plus 5.1 per game. But everyone thinks James Harden's good, so the line would move. So their win-loss record was better with Harden in the lineup. They won 67% of the games versus 63% without him. But the ATS record without Harden was 16-7, almost 70%, because the line would over-adjust and overreact as if he was a good player. So, or a winning player, I should say, not just a good skill set. So yeah, we like the model value is based on the offense of Philly actually playing better without who people think would be their second best offensive player. Milwaukee's defense is not what it was from a few years ago when they won the championship. And I think that we don't know how it's going to work with Dame Lillard defensively. So the model actually likes the over and Philly based on Philly going well over their 110.5 team total.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Still mourning the Phillies, but I'll just move on and start with NBA season and hope for better things ahead. Yeah, someone asking in the chat about Dame's projections versus Philly. Again, it'll be hard for us to give you confidence about Dame until we have a lot of data of him in this lineup, which NBA season won't take as long considering they play a lot more than the NFL. So
we have up there at 28.5 points, and I think his line is 26.5 minus 120 on a consensus basis. So we have no value there.
Yeah, not a lot of value. Someone was asking about LeBron James in the chat too, his rebounds and assists, and Jake answered that we basically are in line with them at 13. So this is another game. Just want to mention it, even though we don't necessarily have model value on it, but the Lakers hosting the Suns here. What have we learned about the Suns to help people play this game?
Well, I mean, the Suns probably won't have Booker and Beal. So that the line went from Lakers -1, basically a pick 'em, to -5.5 on the consensus. So, and our sim moves similarly from, basically a pick 'em to -4. And our model has Beal is not quite Harden level, but doesn't have that impact on the winning that you would think that a player of his individual stats would indicate, whereas Booker definitely does. So, but yeah, I think in the model we have slight betting value on Phoenix, but without Booker, it's kind of hard to be sure. Mm-hmm. It's also faith in Eric Gordon. He's older, he's a veteran, but he can step up and provide some scoring when needed.
Right. All right, let's move on from the NBA. Going to bring Steven in the chat so he can answer the rest of your NBA questions on the night. Bring in Jake. Talk about some team totals. We're going into Team Total Thursday, probably one of the best segments of the week. So let's get started here. Let's start off my Georgia Bulldogs playing Jake's Florida Gators. And poor Jake probably had a really hard time rating this to me this morning. But we are going with Georgia team total over 30.5. Our model has it projected at 36.
Yeah, it's painful. But, if Georgia team total overhits, it means Georgia won. And my wallet benefits. But if it doesn't hit, it means the Gators played better than I expected, and I'm happy inside. So it's a win-win. We were talking about John likes to play Tulane and to win every game, but they've been terrible against the spread. And we said you have to bet against Tulane, because then if they lose, you win money, and then if they win, you're
morally
benefit. Yeah. So, but right here, I think it's a good spot for Georgia, even without Brock Bowers. I think that they should hit over 31 points pretty easily, because just because the Gators defense is so young. I think the Gators have the youngest defense in all the SEC, and they're just not quite there yet. And Georgia's scored plenty the last 2 years against them, and they're younger this year than they have been the last couple of years. So unfortunately, I agree with the model. I think they should score 35, 36 points.
Yeah, Georgia was saying how they're outgaining opponents by almost 247 yards. That's the most in FBS right now. So without
Ball State and Vandy and all those teams, we're a little better than them, but we'll see.
Yes. Well, any stats about the Georgia Bulldogs that look good, I am going to show. All right, let's move on to a not so awesome Georgia team, Georgia Tech. We like their under at 25.5. We have them projected for 21 points.
Yeah, so I talked about this on Sunday. This game is against UNC, and UNC has better stats on the road than they do at home. They're allowing just 20 points per game on the road. Steven just commented you could get under 26.5. FanDuel at a relatively good margin at minus 115. So I would take that, even though 25, 26, not really key numbers, but it's college football. You never know if there's a missed extra point, so you get the higher number if you can. But I agree with the model just because UNC's defense is better on the road. They're coming off getting embarrassed last week. They still have an outside chance at making the playoffs, according to the odds. Steven and I don't think that they have really any chance. But according to the odds, they still have an outside chance. They have to go undefeated, but probably beat FSU in the conference championship game. So they're still playing for something. And I think it's just pride right here against bad Georgia Tech offense. That I think that their defense want to show that they're still okay after letting up 31 points against UVA last week.
I like that. Let's move to Troy. They're laying 6.5 versus Texas State, but we like their under here, projecting them at 22.
Yeah, I know Nick asked about this. We like the full game under, and big reason why is we like Troy's team total under. I mean, Texas State's defense isn't that good, but Troy's offense isn't really anything that's electric. We have them scoring just 22. I think 30.5 is pretty high for this Troy offense. That I mean, at times they've been good, but against good teams they've struggled to score. They scored just 16 a couple weeks ago against Army. I like the under here.
Mm-hmm. Another game here, Utah playing Oregon. They're actually 6.5 point underdogs. We like Utah in this spot, I believe, so we like their team total over as well.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon's defense isn't all rolled. I mean, they're a good team, but I mean, they gave up 36 points to Washington, and they're on the road here against Utah. And Utah, they're one of the best coached teams in all of college football, and with Kyle Whittingham. And we saw them get creative. They have their safety playing running back / wide receiver, and they have their backup running back running Wildcat. They're getting really creative. So they're at home. It's a big game. The crowd's going to be wild. They just needed to get 3 touchdowns here, and they hit the over. So I like it. And Derrick Rowe, they've hit the over in 4 straight games against AP top 10 opponents. So I love that stat if it benefits us.
Yes, yeah. No, Utah really does show up against these big teams. Absolutely. Do we like this full game over at all, you think?
I don't love it. Maybe a live play, but it's minus 1,000 that I have a player prop. I probably will put a player prop in this game. You know, I have to. I do have one player prop I want to give out for tonight's game.
Yes.
Garrett Rader for Syracuse over 32.5 rush yards. He said in his interview yesterday that he's not running the ball enough. He wants to run the ball more, and we have him projected for over 40 yards. So even without him saying that he wants to run the ball more, Sam's like the over. Give me that over tonight.
All right, we'll go to one more team, Virginia at Miami. You like them to score more than 13.5 points. Our model has them at 19.
Yeah, so the odds actually reversed. It was over at plus 100, and the under was at minus 130, and now the over is at minus 130, and the under is at 100. So people like this bet. Juice is moving towards Virginia. I don't buy into Miami's defense quite yet. I mean, they were terrible a couple of weeks ago against North Carolina. They were good against Clemson, but I think Clemson isn't that good. So I think Virginia should be able to score 2 touchdowns. Miami's a really good team, but they just have lapses, like you saw against Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. So this is a spot where they just could have a lapse on defense. Virginia, they're not a good team. They have one FBS win, and that was against top 10 team, surprisingly, against North Carolina. But they've been able to move the ball on offense. Malik Washington's been one of the best receivers in all of college football for them.
Right. Question, if you don't have a big play, that's fine. But Matt was asking about the 2 games that we have tonight, FCS. Anything you like there other than your Syracuse player prop?
The FCS games tonight?
I see Georgia State, Georgia Southern.
No, that's FBS.
Okay.
FCS is I can
Yeah.
look it up for you real quick.
I don't see any on the board.
We
I guess
don't
that's
have
just
projections
easy.
for FCS
Okay.
games, unfortunately. But I always know bet on North Dakota State or South Dakota State usually it benefits you. I know there's some really good people on Twitter who I follow who bet FCS and they're quite profitable. But I don't follow it until the playoffs. Then I'll bet some FCS
Yeah.
games, and then I'll be there for you.
Yeah, Jake likes the obscure ones, so you best believe that he's going to come in with some of that. All right, let's move really quickly. I want to go over our survivor pick because we are still undefeated going into week 8. We like the Cowboys to beat the Rams. Now, we had this as a little bit higher percentage earlier in the season, but it's still over 70%.
Yeah, but we do have value on the Rams. The lines come down from what it was Dallas -7.5 back in May. Now it was -6.5 to open this week. Now it's down to -6. I still like Dallas, coming off the bye, seeing what Pittsburgh did against that Rams offense and having a lot of success. Going forward, I'm not going to win. I'm a little worried about the Browns Cardinals. I mean, right now we have tons of 73% chance of the Browns winning, but I assume Kyler Murray's not going to be back. But I'm a little worried about Josh Dobbs going back to Cleveland, having some familiarity with being there, and the Deshaun Watson situation and his injury, and if he tries to play, if he plays really badly. Bills Denver, I'm cool with that. That's up to over 84%. From preseason, whereas like it's 75%, and then Niners Bucks I feel good about too. So I think after that we got the Ravens versus the Rams, but I will not jinx us by mentioning.
Oh boy, yeah. Let's stick to the screen for now.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we have for today. So that's our survivor pick. Plenty of information on this show today. Lots to go over. A couple picks, a couple things to look out for going into the weekend. Tomorrow we will hit the prop party, deep dive into the player prop market, show you where lines are misplaced, what you need to look out for and take advantage of. So with that said, we will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Feel free to ask us any of your questions on Twitter, and good luck with your bets tonight.